Let's go. Exciting.
Mhm. Yeah, nice.
You may
Cool.
need to accept on your end.
I think I've done it. Yep.
Awesome.
So how are you, Lloyd?
How am I? Good question. Ah. Right now, it's interesting. I am sitting somewhere between that place of really excited, but also nervous. Do you know that spot?
Is it I'm trying I put it on my body, and is it that something needs to happen and you allow the courage to come up, but also the courage is fronting up to that little fear.
Yeah.
But the courage, it's the moment that the courage is winning for a little bit.
Or a
Is
little.
it something like that?
I think so, because I think the courage is here and now, showing up in this space. And the fear is also, I think, very relevant because I'm stepping into something that is new. It's a challenge. It's unexpected, it's uncertain, but it's also full of potential. And I think that's the exciting part. I went this morning for a little bike ride to the beach. I often try to get into nature whenever I feel this way, just to, you know, get away from a bit of the noise and just really reconnect to to this moment. And I could feel this sense of nervous anticipation about today's session, excited but also apprehensive. And that courage is there. I think it's an interesting place. When I was coached many, many years ago by my coach, who's now a dear friend, Mikael Nielsen, he introduced me to this concept of what he called the edge. Um, and it is that place between excitement and fear. And I think I'm in that place today. And he said to me, as men, or even I guess as women, or the human species, it's a really interesting place that we often need to find ourselves going to, you know? Uh,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Have you experienced this sort of sensation of
Yeah.
stepping out of my
I
comfort zone, but it's also really exciting.
yeah, I was actually when you were like describing that, I was my head went into, so what's the opposite of that? And and the opposite of that, I said like, wow, is it not the edge? Is it not that we are always in that edge? And sometimes courage is stronger than fear, and then it is a good edge,
Yeah.
and sometimes fear is bigger than courage, and it's the same edge, but it's an edge that paralyzes us or makes us
Yeah.
smaller or whatever it brings to us.
Yeah.
And so and I think it's in that edge, that those moments that are not permanent, like come and go, and so when you are in the good edge, it's like, wow, let's go for it. And then when you are not in the good edge, oh, I need help, or things are
Mm.
not working. Oh, things are not working. Oh, cool. How we transform just for our convenience that idea of walking on that edge when on the bright side of that one. I
Mm.
mean, I said bright because it looks more positive, all right? I can see you smile, all right? It's like, and otherwise it would have been like, I don't know. I'm just here. I want to do that, but I can't. I can't move. I don't know where to go. I don't know what
Mm.
to do. I don't know. I'm just. This is what came out in my.
Yeah. I wonder
Mm,
if I can ask you a question. Um,
yeah.
and maybe it's a good point before I ask this question, just to put this out there that, you know, we are here today because we decided we were going to record this session.
Hmm.
And the idea that came up was that, you know, we've been having these amazing conversations, you and I, for a few months now. And always at the end of the session, there's the sense of we could talk for a lot more, but also the sense of, wow, some of these things we're talking about, wouldn't it be cool to be able to, you know, have this as some sort of a value? Would other people, I think the question I asked you would other men find this conversation interesting or valuable, right? And then this is where we're at. So we've sort of taken that plunge, haven't we? We've taken that leap. So while I'm sitting on my edge right now, I'm wondering, are you also in that place or are you in a different place?
Um. Yes, there is excitement. There is that age of uncertainty and fear. I personally, for this activity, I this specific activity, I'm far more surrendered because the exercise for me, and if I go back to my brain and if I talk about what happened in the past, there would be a lot of questioning about, oh man, how about my accent, how I look, what am I gonna say? What do you know? Um, or oh, Lloyd has been doing this for a long time and I haven't, or a lot of different things. Oh, Lloyd has a beautiful screen behind. I'm not. No, 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 not that. That one is a joke. But yeah, so I decided that I was gonna surrender to the activity and trust because the conversations that we've been having were exactly the same as you described it for me too. So there is there's nothing to achieve or nothing to or nowhere to get. It's just the same conversation. We have the same questions. We have the same, I don't know, the same. We are eagerly the same, wanting to explore and curious. And as you said, I don't believe that the curiosity or what we are talking about it belongs only to us. I think it belongs to everyone, and I believe that anyone will be in this conversation. Anybody with this curiosity will be in the conversation doing exactly the same as we're doing.
I love that.
Mm.
I love, as always, your honesty and you're willing to be vulnerable by just highlighting some of those thoughts, that mental chatter, because I could really relate to a lot of the things you were saying. And funnily enough, um, forget about my fancy screen in the background, but I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm valuable enough to be in this space. Like I'm having those same thoughts of self-doubt. But the key thing there for me that you said was that word surrender,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and that really, I think, for me, what comes up for that space is whenever we have to challenge ourselves beyond our comfort zone, there can be so much head stuff, that comes into it, right?
Mm.
The uncertainty, the self-doubt, and all that stuff is obviously relevant. But if we get too into that space, it can really upset, I feel, my opinion, is it can upset the flow of the process. So when you mentioned the word surrender, it really resonated with me because my focus for arriving into this session today, for recording, for the potential of what the space could be, what the excitement of the value that we could get, the growth that we could get, the value that we could potentially share with others. I think the surrendering part enabled me just to sit with that and trust that instead of going into, more of my default, oh, it's, I need to plan it. I need to, everything needs to be perfect and, it needs to be structured. And what if the session doesn't go well? And, what if it becomes all this sort of, you know what I mean? Um, so I think surrender, and trust, those words there really helped me to arrive in this space today, and I can feel it in my body, and I can feel that sense of excitement and but also and nerves, like an anxious nervous energy, and really tap into that energy with a sense of surrendering. Like it doesn't matter what happens. It's just a conversation, and let's just open. Let's be open.
Mhm. I got a question, Lloyd, when you were saying surrendering and then I keep always thinking on semantics and meaning of words and because when we say surrendering, we both have an opinion of that or it looks like this for me, and I'm assuming that it looks like that to you. But how does surrendering looks like to you if you can describe it as something, I don't know, physical or I don't know, whatever, however you want to describe it, how surrendering looks like.
Surrendering for me looks like letting go of of outcome, of expectation. Surrendering looks like trusting, you know, acknowledging that, and I was, I think, very aware that coming into this, because this is my idea, a little backstory again, just to share with you, Diego. I don't know if I've actually shared this with you, but the origin of how we arrived today was me sitting on the beach with Mariana, and we were talking about stuff, and then all of a sudden this idea just popped into my head. Oh my God, wouldn't it be amazing to create something with Diego? Like,
Mm,
and what could that look like? Could that, it might be, it could be a podcast. It could be something that becomes something that we really enjoy and get value from, and becomes something that potentially other people could get value from, you know?
yeah.
And I think it also felt like it was a unique thing, just two regular guys living in this mad 21st century coming together and just trying to talk about real stuff that's in an it's authentic, and it's genuine, and it's also importantly vulnerable, which I think is really difficult for a lot of men these days to be vulnerable.
Mm,
So um coming here today, there was an expectation that I had, and this is the side chatter that comes on, these default positions that we have in our mind, whenever we step into a place that is a little uncomfortable, it's like all this noise starts coming, and I shared that expectation, self-doubt and all that stuff. Just drop it, man. Just let it go, So um I think that just, and I'll put this out there, if you are going into a situation which requires you to step up, to step into stress, to step into something that's unknown or uncomfortable. If you change that mindset a little bit and just give it a bit more tenderness and a bit more softness, then I think magical things can really happen. And I'm so thrilled to be in this space today to experience that, and what can unfold.
Mm. Yeah, it is. It is a nice space. I just following a little bit the question that I asked you about surrendering, and I want to share what surrendering looks to me, because I don't know if it's going to help someone, but for me is surrender. Every time I say surrendering, I just go um to to an image. I'm lying on the ground. I'm open like that, and there is a bunch of kids, like 5, 10 kids, willing to play, and I give my body for them, and they start like doing this and that and that and that, and they're pulling from here, and I'm there for them as my body. So when I said surrendering, I always go there.
Mm.
So it's like whatever happens is I don't know. I love that song because um it is being putting yourself out there, and you don't know if somebody's gonna poke your eye, or touch your nose, or pull your hair, and then you feel that you're gonna keep losing it, or but it doesn't matter, but it will be joy. It will be the outcome is that there is something happening. There's something that is there's freedom, there is growth, there is happiness, there's joy at the end of it.
Mm.
And and I don't know if the kids are gonna do something wrong to me, or I'm gonna get injured, or maybe not. However, I know that that moment I'm actually at service for a cause. There is, I don't know, at that time could be having a little bit of fun or self-expression or whatever. It's a little silly childish image that I have. But it really helped me. It really helps me when I'm going to, especially if you go into an environment where you go, no, it doesn't happen with you because we have already good conversations, which gives me a lot of protection, or I feel very comfortable with you. But if I go to places where there's more solemnity, or there's more like the authorities or structure or things where in my beliefs, all right? So I go with that image of we are all kids doing this to each other and just doing
And
we're having fun.
I love that. I love that image, Diego. And I've got a couple of questions around that. The first question is that image born in, because I know that you have kids. Um, is that image something familiar to you from your days bringing up your kids? And is that something that you would do with your kids or?
Yeah, no, I remember the first no, the first thing that I got about surrendering was an image having. I remember my mom and my dad. When I was little, my dad would grab me from my hands like that, and my mom from my feet, and they will actually shake me, or like how do you say, swing me like for a while, and then they will let me go, and I will land in my bed. All right, and with a little bit of caring, but it was quite wild. So I had to surrender to that, and that was my first sort of connection with surrendering and enjoying and trusting. And but I did not have that for a long time. Well, I had it in back of my mind, but I lost it in throughout my life, and
Yeah.
I connected to that
As we do.
not long ago. One day I surrendered, and I remember when he was, and it's still very vivid. So uh, I connect to that surrendering, which includes probably love, caring, and trust from what you know from your parents.
Mm, beautiful.
Um, Obviously, and then not obviously, and then other things happened, and then I lost that. even with my parents, all right? So I guess that was the baseline for me, but also I started not to have the same feelings later on in life with my parents. So I had that I had to deal with, well, I trust, I surrender to them, but now I'm not. What is that? And yeah.
It's a great it's a great again a great image. You know, I was when you were sharing how you were getting swung by your parents, and I can really vividly imagine that. You know, there is a sense of enjoyment, of fun, of love, and all these really positive words that you were sharing there. Um, and also, you know, when they actually let you go, you know, it's just that you're in free fall, you know, and there is a sense of like, well, I think particularly when you're kids, when you don't have a sense of, oh, I can get hurt. You just you let go, right?
Yeah.
Really stood out for me there was, you know, you said that as you grew, you lost that, but you know, like I would challenge you on that. You know, like did you
Yeah.
lose it or did you just disconnect from it? Because I feel
Yeah.
like we're being swung here a little bit today, Diego, you know, just like I don't know who's swinging us, but we've been let go and for me, you know, I'm in mid-flight, you know, I'm
Yeah. Yeah. It is. You're right. I mean, yes, it is this connection to that, because I rediscovered it in some ways, or I connected at some point when I did the exercise what surrendering means to me, and then I remember that. I remember that, and I remember also when my kids were little, where I allowed them to do whatever they want with me, and that create the freedom and the connection with them. But what I'm saying, yeah, you're right. It's something that for some reason, again, going on that edge, the the fear starts taking over, and unconsciously we start connecting to that more than the other bit for whatever reason. I don't know. Yeah, that's it. That's probably the the big questions. All right, for us, well, why sometimes fear disconnect us from that freedom that at some point was enjoyable.
that I think we still have the potential to tap into even in adulthood, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. The thing for that, Lloyd, and then we probably got if we open this goes into more deeper things, is like we still can do it, but it takes a lot, or not a lot, but it has to be like it's a very conscious decision to go back to that ideal or primitive state of surrendering and playfulness and trust, and because over the years, depending on how much life you had on board, you we I started closing to things that I didn't like or they were uncomfortable, and as you said, lost the connection to that. So it's that moment it got very deep in myself, of which I don't even remember that it exists
Mm.
until I went through all the layers of
Mhm.
conditionings and fears and things that happen in my life. And then, oh, I found that little moment where I felt free, or I could surrender to trust in my parents and fly without without a fear, trusting that I'm going to land whatever I'm going to land. And if it hurts a little bit, yeah, that was fun anyway.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it's along the journey, those things start start getting not we don't have much access to that unless we are ready to go through all those layers and start digging. And when we start digging, yeah, just things that sometimes we don't like to see.
Mm.
They're not comfortable. Does it is it like sort of does
Yeah,
it make sense to you, or is it anything that
it makes really good sense to me. I wonder, and I'm going to challenge you again. I wonder, do we need to? I know you've done a lot of deep work, and that's been a real journey for you. And I've also done a lot of self work. You know, and the layers that you're talking about, I fully resonate with. There is a lot of layers of conditioning over the years that we all have, and we can cut away at that, over time with a bit of work, and it's good work, right? It's good work, because there's light in the darkness, as you uncover some of that stuff.
Mhm.
My challenge there on that is, if I was, and I know, because you're a coach, Diego, if I was a client of yours and I came to you, how a few sessions in, and I said to you, Diego, I'm really struggling with finding that sense of joy, and I've lost joy in my life, help me reconnect with that. If you have to kind of, you know, bypass the years of work and the layers that it goes through to get to a place that you can access more frequently that joy, what would you say to that person? Do you have like a little tip for someone who can
oh
just access that quicker?
mm, good question. Yeah, I guess I might need to understand it a bit more about the person in general, but what it comes out to me as the first thing is that what is joy to you,
Mm,
and
mm,
and how does joy feels in your body,
mm.
and then once you connect with joy in your body, after do you remember the last time you felt like that?
Brilliant.
How was it? And then or when was it? Or and then suddenly you might really find a connection to that moment, and then building from now on, or where is it, or how what happened after that, and yeah, maybe that would be obviously there's not a magic formula for anything. It's just that something that came out in this
Yeah,
after when you said that got
yeah,
that question to me. What how would you what is your
yeah,
or what would it be your take on this?
yeah. I think, yeah, I was really resonating with what you were saying around, trying to remember a time when you did feel that sense of joy, because I think for a lot of people, particularly a lot of men these days, it's been a while since they've experienced that, because we get into the grind, we get into work, we get into career, we get into the ladder. We've got kids, we're busy, doing. We've got maybe a marriage, partner, relationships to work on. It's constant, isn't it? We don't get a lot of time to ask ourselves these questions, how do I experience joy? But I think you really nailed it there. It's about, what does joy look like for you? And for a lot of people, it can be different, right? I mean, we live here in the beautiful Bay of Plenty, and I see a lot of men out there surfing with other men, and I think for them, that is their little window of finding joy. Like a happy place. They could just be out there in the ocean, in the waves, in the moment. And I think that's the key there, is to really strip it all away and say, what is it that brings me joy? What what
Hmm.
what do I remember about joy? And a lot of that is obviously remembering what you used to do before you became a busy dad, a busy business owner, or whatever it is that you're doing, that is important stuff, it's also important that we find joy too, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and the joy also, I think, because it means differently for
Mm.
different, they have different meanings, and instantly when I hear joy comes fun, but uh, I relate joy more to a peace of mind, to places where I feel at ease,
Mm.
or whatever I'm doing when I'm at ease is joy comes up, and it doesn't need to be like a identifiable, like amazing activity that I take. It could be cooking, it could be cleaning the house, it could be um, I don't know. I remember going to like turning a visit to the mechanic where I know that it's going to be a very big bill that I need to go, and I felt like it was very unfair, and why these things happen to me. I will never buy this car again. And I said, well, Diego, that's a choice of going to the mechanic with that mindset, or you can go to the mechanic with curiosity and understanding what's happening. And then suddenly I find myself having a very long conversation with the mechanic, and the mechanic trying to help me, and then let's gonna call the brand and see if we can get some help from them, and then well, so the whole confrontation became collaboration, and this collaboration will probably end up in more collaboration, and maybe what the original bill was maybe is going to be less than that, maybe not, but it doesn't really matter. But what I'm trying to say is that I find joy on turning around my my way of being, or my instant unconscious reaction, into something that it could be actually a growth opportunity, or
Yeah.
an expanding opportunity, and that gives me joy, for example.
Oh my God. I'm lighting up hearing that because that is right in my wheelhouse, Diego. I love sounds so much like that growth mindset. And we've talked about this in previous catch-ups, haven't we? Arriving at a challenge with a mindset that whatever happens, um, I'm going to bring a positive mindset. Whatever happens, you mentioned those words, like collaboration. You went to your mechanic and you knew, there was potentially going to be a big bill. You can arrive at that situation at that point of challenge with a mindset of, poor me. Why does life keep treating me like this? How am I going to afford this? I'm going to have to get a second job, and it goes on and on and on and on. Right. Before we've even arrived at the challenge, we've assumed all these horrible, terrible outcomes. And that simple shift of arriving at the mechanic with a sense of curiosity, I think that was a word you used, curiosity.
Yeah, it's a curiosity. Yeah.
That word. That's a great word because it just, as soon as you tap into that curiosity, when I think curiosity, I think like the child with a box that creates a fort.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Just a plain empty box from Pack and Save. You give it to a kid, like I've done this at home with my daughter. You leave it lying around the house, and next minute they've created this walking robot, and they're inside the robot, and they've cut eyes and they've drawn faces, and really gone to town on it. So it's that curiosity that children have inherently. They just have it. And we, like we've talked about, you kind of, you do move away from that as you get older, but when you tap back into that, it just opens up a whole new playing field. Yeah, you arrive into challenge with a sense of, how can I make this something different?
Yeah, and that's a beautiful analogy you brought. It's like this box that is probably annoying in the corner of a room or something becomes magically a robot or whatever
Yeah.
the creation, which also creates. creates life to you as a dad because you get, oh, look what my daughter has done. But for you, it feels like, but for your daughter, it's like an expansion of creativity and things. So what I'm trying to say is that it's exactly what you just described. It's like the curiosity is transformative and expands. And when I say create life, I like saying creating life as expanding, also creating something that it wasn't supposed to be there, and now it is, just because life created that. That curiosity or that space created, allowed something to grow from nothing,
Mm,
from what we think is nothing, like an empty box or a big bill of the mechanic.
mm,
Because I know that if you go to the mechanic, you need to be grumpy because you need to be. That's how I know. You need to be grumpy. You need to be careful. They're gonna charge you for everything. You need to defend yourself, protect yourself. Don't believe anything. That was my belief going to the mechanic. But then I I move out of there because I found myself thinking like that. Move out from there and open up. I said, well, what's the curiosity? What else? How else I could be on my way to the mechanic? In your box example is that, oh, there's a box. Oh, this is an annoying box. That's this filthy box or whatever. I'll get rid of box. Or or there's another way, which is, oh, we got a box. Oh, what are the possibilities of this box? And who can benefit from this box or something? And then suddenly you got your daughter working on
that's right. And it's
and
there, isn't it? Kids are a wonderful muse, when it comes to reminding you of that sense of curiosity, collaboration, and all these wonderful words, and I think about the situation we're in today as another really good example. And this is how we started the conversation today around stepping outside of our comfort zone. Uh, and I'm going to be honest here, uh, really honest about how I was feeling about this whole process. For you, Diego, when I had that idea on the beach and I was filled with excitement and possibility and all those wonderful, like collaboration and curiosity. And wow, what could this be? It could be something really cool. It wasn't a negative thought that was coming into my mind. But just give it a minute and there it all was. There it all was for me, like a cold bath, that old chestnut, and there was probably a time where I think I almost talked myself out of doing it.
Mhm.
And I'm being honest, like I said to myself, I don't think anyone's going to want to listen to me. I mean, who am I really to be thinking about doing a podcast? I mean, no one's going to listen. It's going to be a waste of, where I'm going with this, and all
Yeah.
that was just generating this negative energy in me that was kind of like the idea just became like, oh, well, someone else will do it. And that's a really interesting point that maybe we can talk about in a side thing in terms of the origin of ideas, the life cycle of ideas. Um, but where I was going with that is I think that, you know, once I let go of that surrendering, like it doesn't really matter what happens, Lloyd, just let go. Uh,
Yeah.
and honor the idea because it's still a good idea. And I had to come back to that moment on the beach and all that sort of noise and self-doubt. Come back to that moment on the beach and try to tap into that feeling, that sense that I had, that curious boy with a box, like I've got something here. What am I going to do with it?
Yeah.
I can either listen to the default noise, which is there. Yeah, okay, it's there. It's relevant. It's got a purpose, a reason. do I need to listen to that, or can I listen to something a little higher in frequency? And over the process, this was months before I even, well, months, weeks before I even had the courage to propose the idea to you because I spent a lot of time in that space. Like, nah, nah. And I had mentioned it to Mariana as well. So I knew that I had accountability there because she was probably going to say to me, because she was super excited in the moment as well. And she was probably going to say to me, "Hey, what are you doing with that idea? You know, are you going to follow through?" So I knew that I had to kind of, I had to front up. I had to front up, and I'm tapping my chest here because, like I could, the fear and the self-doubt was in my heart, was in my head. It was there. I just, you need to front up, Lloyd.
Hmm. And how does it feel like?
It feels great. I don't know. The session might be rubbish, but it doesn't really matter.
Well, what is what what is the rubbish on the session, or what is the success on the session? What is there's an expectation of how, because when you were describing all of this, I went into the time that I offer myself to make a meal for a group of people, and I decided to make a meal and start cooking, and then when I was going to the supermarket to get, or to the markets to get whatever I need for the meal, I was, why am I doing this? You are not a cook. You don't know how to cook. Oh, what if this is a lot of people that are gonna eat from me, and and then I was like, okay, let's go, keep going, then. And then in the middle of when I was cooking, what I find out is that I applied the surrendering, and I said, like, you are doing it, so it doesn't matter. You are doing it. So all you can do is surrender and apply something beautiful, that is love to what you're doing. So when you when you present the meal, it doesn't really matter how it is, if it's made with love and with your enjoyment of the process, right? You've been doing. Suddenly, what happened is that the people are eating, and you see people enjoying what you just done, and that moment, what's going to happen regardless of your thoughts or your not thoughts, and the outcome on how good the food was or not, is that it's not really real important.
Mm.
Because if your meal wasn't that good, you have the chance to make it different later on, or you learn from what you didn't do, or your ability to
So, so,
cook.
so what was important for you in
But the important was realizing that the surrendering and the doing it with presence and love, which is, so what I'm saying is that if this activity that we're doing is done with presence and love, it doesn't really matter the outcome. It doesn't really matter if somebody's watching it, it's somebody's not watching it, or if we are even watching it yourself, or you might not even watch it yourself. It doesn't really matter. It's just that we're doing it, and that's it. As long as you're doing it with at least for me, this is this is amazing. It's just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. This is a conversation between two men that want to dig deeper into why are we here, what are we doing, and how we can improve, how can we go through shit, and and
how do we go through life?
yeah, and then it doesn't really matter if anybody watches it or not, to be honest, um, because if somebody watches it, and it's just beautiful, and same as I do with other things that I consume, and I mean, there's some people doing amazing things out there, and sharing things, and yeah, and and I don't know if they are successful or not. As I said, they are sharing things. So the act of sharing something that is genuine and transparent and authentic it never goes wrong, and 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 that's something that I will probably put it somewhere or write it down right after we finish the conversation. Again, I repeat it. Anything that's been done with authenticity, love, and caring, it never goes wrong. It's not, there's nothing goes wrong. It's like it's just pure, all right?
Mm.
And then if somebody likes it, and somebody doesn't like it. It's not. It's not. It doesn't deserve any judgment. That one. It's up to different people. But for me, the focus is that doing things with when we feel that comes from the right place.
The right place. Yeah, so that's a and firstly, just let me say, I think I needed to hear that today. So thank you, Diego, for reminding me that um, it is um, it is not about the outcome. It's about the journey, about the enjoyment of the ride, right? The moment.
Yeah.
Um,
And I know, Lloyd, I interrupt you, sorry.
yeah,
And I know that for you, as it is for me, but I know for previous conversation that this is very important to you, like the self-expression and this environment where you're sharing what comes out of your your experiences and what you studied and what you intended to do and the people that you want to help. This is a extremely important space for you, which and also is for me. And and I had to really, really thank you for taking the initiative and created this for me as well, because it wasn't in my to-do list, but as soon as you put it out there, I found I found myself completely engaged to your idea because you are engaging because everything that is done from within and it comes from it is engaging.
mm,
So so yeah, thank you for that and thank you for taking that step, which is yeah, it's very humbling as well because um as I said, there's all these words in the back of our mind. It's like, who are we? What are we saying? What do we know?
yeah, that's right. They're there. They're there. And thank you for sharing that, Diego, and your vote of confidence and I really value these conversations and the whole idea that this could be valuable for someone else is a privilege, I guess. But it doesn't have to be an outcome. So that's a really nice segue because my next question to you or next topic or exploration was going to be around coming back to your story with your cooking experience. And I got another question there for you. Why did you want to cook for those people?
Um,
And is
there
that
is a
that an important question to ask yourself?
there yeah there is a there are some things that intrigue me in life and one of the things is being at service. It's like generating something for to share us with a group of humans, all right? Like the one that I don't know, someone that builds a dad that builds a little house for the kids. Why you do that? Or um, you know, fixing something for the that is broken and nobody told you but you fixing it. Or yeah, doing something, creating something for a group of people. And cooking is something that it was always very challenging for me because I never cooked that. I grew up in an apartment in the middle of the city with somebody always cooked for me. And I wasn't even connected to that. And then I started. I started going to the kitchen and following recipes and challenging myself, especially when we had little kids, and helping or understanding that probably my ex-wife needed help and or answering to the request for help. So I started to transform that experience into something that I could actually learn. And then I find myself very clumsy and I'm very unfamiliar with everything in the kitchen. And so I wasn't confident enough and my first meals were absolutely probably not that good, but I found that I was taking those instructions from a very structure and outcome seeking situation. So I started to relax and I started to trust more. And then I started to connect with the effects of the heat into the water and the food and then I started to understand that the cooking could be more like enjoyable and like a ritual and there's messages coming that you can tune in and suddenly you don't need a timer or somebody or you start getting into that thing and people that cook what I'm talking about is pretty basic stuff. But I found it that I found that cooking was a very enjoyable task, and suddenly it has the benefit that has that sort of satisfaction of being at service, right? When you're cooking, somebody else is doing something else, is socializing or doing that. You're cooking, you're preparing, or somebody's preparing something else, and then we all share what we've done. Far away from the ego of look what I've done for you. I mean, it's not that. It's just a contribution to something, and that's one of the things that lights me up is creating spaces for things to happen, and food dinners are spaces where things happen. So that's why I felt like cooking was a good place to start to create those spaces. Yeah. And the same as everything, so or playing an instrument, or somebody started with a beat when there was nothing, or somebody singing a song, or storytelling, or anything that creates a space for for humans or for people to express themselves is something that is very, but everything done with love and connection to what we're doing, it cannot be wrong. It
Yeah.
might not taste amazing. It might be whatever. It doesn't really matter, but it's not wrong.
Mm.
And the assessment of what you've done
Mm.
is done by another human. So there's nothing to be worried about. That's what I said to myself. Right? And if the food is not even eatable, there will be another solution coming up. But
I call
you've
for,
done the first.
I call for takeaways.
Yeah, but you also had done it. You had the intention. You've done your first step. You've done the first step, and then it doesn't really matter that everybody in the world has burned something that failed on in doing some poached eggs or something. So it's like just do it. Just go and do it. It's same as this. Like let's do it.
Make a really,
And
I could make a really cheeky comment about my wife for there, but I probably won't, for fear that I might be reprimanded for that when talking about poached eggs and burning them. But oh, brilliant, brilliant, Diego.
yeah, but that's what we're doing, though. We are in the kitchen doing something that we don't know how it's gonna taste or but it doesn't really matter. It's just what we're doing.
Yeah, and the key I think is, as well as is approaching it with a sense of joy and of love for doing doing, and I think the key word you used for me was being in service of others. And I know of my years of hospitality, over 20 years in hospitality. I've been around food a long time, and I know good food and I know bad food, and I know when food has been cooked with love. So it's not necessarily the perfect combination of ingredients and the perfectly cooked medium rare steak, like it's actually the energy that's transferred from the person that is cooking it. And if it's
Mhm.
done with love, you're already halfway there. So that's brilliant. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can just say to that point in terms of bringing it back to today and our first session together, this battle that I've had with myself about arriving here today, the why, and again, like if you are going, you're going through some sort of a challenge in your life, or you're stepping into a project, or you're stepping outside your comfort zone, the thing is so important is the why, to come back to the why. And I'm sure that you know exactly what I mean when I say that if we don't have a strong why, and the why is not aligned with us and the truth and that sense of love and service and all that, then it can go a little wrong. So for me, with all that self-doubt and that sense of, perfection and structured and outcome and all that rubbish, well, I shouldn't say rubbish. I mean, it's valid, uh, not necessary, but valid. You know, the why. Why am I doing this? It's actually not about me. It's not about you, Lloyd. It's about you being in the service of others, which is the whole reason I got into coaching in the first place. Is what lights me up is the sense of, contributing to someone else's benefit, to helping others. That's what I find the most thrilling about coaching is when you can sit opposite someone and you can see that aha moment that they've had. You can see that them light up and something's shifted for them. And if we can create that space here, and what's to what's to not like about that, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It's
so,
just
so what I'm saying is, in those moments of self-doubt, what really helped me to get through that and to subsequently arrive here today was coming back to the why. Like, why are you doing this, Lloyd? And the truth
Mhm.
of it is not about me. There's a lot of that, the ego there, of course, that has a role. But aside from that, it's connecting with a sense of doing good for others. And if someone can pull some value away from these sessions, then if I can pull some value, if I can grow as a person, that's also important. If you can grow, I mean, this is what it's
Yeah.
all about, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I always, I don't know, I discovered this thing like a couple of years ago that I started doing it from going to festivals and things. And I find out that humans and from the old times, they will go to the village to get what they need and to give what they got and in exchange.
Mm.
And in the way in the society we live in, or at least the one I lived and grew up, I've been disconnected to all of that. So at the moment, sometimes it's hard to go to the village because the village is quite doesn't really exist at the moment. But let's say that this sort of social media village is where you go and pick up things and you give. So I I take a lot from this social media village of people talking or being out there and sharing things. So I guess this is our little
Contribution.
little stand in the village that somebody might stop and say, "Oh, what do you guys do? Or what are you talking about? Okay, I got this. Okay, then." And then and the same way we go through the same market and we go and say, "Oh, these guys or these women are very interested. Oh, let's share in some." So I see it that way, that in the same way we are giving this, or we are sharing this, the same way I get from other people doing this. But if we don't do this, the conversation will be within us, which is great. But your idea of making it bigger than just us, um, and we have the possibility of doing it. Why not?
Yeah, well, we live in an age, I guess, where technology is beneficial in that respect, you know. I was
Yeah.
reading something last night. I just started reading the a book called The Anxious Generation, I think it's called. Yeah, The Anxious
Hmm.
Generation, by Jonathan Haidt. I don't know how to actually pronounce his name, but
Hmm.
it's a very famous book at the moment. And it talks a lot about the rise of technology and the subsequent platforms like Facebook and Instagram and all those things. And back then, early 2000s, there was a hope that this technology would bring a sense of connectedness and collaboration that the world had not seen prior to that. Obviously,
Hmm.
it has achieved that in a sense, but obviously there's been a lot of other negative spin-offs from that. I'm going to go into that now, but I guess where I was going with that is that, we have an opportunity to use technology for the greater good, right? And
Yeah.
here's a really good example of that, where you're in Auckland, I'm in Tauranga. We've been having these conversations for a few months now. We can do that because of Zoom, because of technology, and now we also have the opportunity to potentially share this conversation with others who can have instantaneous access to it from anywhere in the world. And how cool is that?
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And yeah, and also other people collaborate with this, or add, or help us, or so who knows, where these conversations take us, because you never know what's gonna happen in that village. Right?
I love the village. I love the village.
Yeah, yeah, it is a concept that killed me when I found out, because I grew up in Buenos Aires in Argentina in an apartment where we're all like in a big city, where there's some collaboration, but it's also some sense of individuality, or right, sharing a lift and not talking to your neighbor, like being like that, very shy, not knowing what's happening, and then going outside in the streets and looking after your things. Watch out, somebody's gonna rob you, somebody's gonna so I grew up in the sense of like, keep keep it to yourself, and keep it to your group of friends and your family, and you're gonna be safe there, but not that. And that's me, all right. It's not that happens to everybody. And so when I connected back to that idea of village, and it actually, it was a little bit of a shock, because I said, oh, all this life, all these opportunities that I missed to meet people, to collaborate with people, to learn from other people, and it's all. And then I said, okay, it doesn't really matter. You learn. That's what happens. So, but start again. But if you like the concept of village, keep it present, because the village is everywhere.
Mm.
It's everywhere. And as soon as you stop and talk to someone, I'm sorry, I'm sharing with you as well that
Yeah,
one
please.
of the one of the things that I'm doing at the moment is that I decided to put my car at service for Uber. So and and I and I started going out, and
Oh,
it's such an amazing activity. How I see it in terms of village, it's like it has the purpose of being at service, and it has the purpose of being on the veins of the city and understanding what's happening in the city. And then people jump into your car, and in whatever situation they are, and you start feeling what's happening in the city and what happened to different humans. And some people like the conversation, some people don't like the conversation, some people are acknowledge you, some people not. And then sometimes you're just a driver, and or the conduit of giving orders to the car to take somewhere. And some others say thank you for the conversation. Sometimes I say thank you for the conversation. But the amount of things that that are the information that we share by talking to random people, which are not random because we're all the same, but which we consider random people because you don't know them or you don't know where they're from. It's so rich,
Wow.
and it's not a very financial amazing job. However, is so rich because it's the confrontation to people that you don't know, and and again the surrendering to what's going to happen if you're open, and and I find that activity extremely rich for myself and for that sense of going to the village. All right, so that's what drives what that's what drives my intention of doing that job. I don't know for how long, but I mean, it's going to the village and what's happening in the village, and get surprised by what I'm going to learn from the village today or what I can bring to the village today. And it's I love I love that concept, and and it's not always a monetary thing. All right, it's
Yeah.
an energy exchange of any sort because it doesn't need to be always money. It could be something else. All right.
Yeah. Well, once upon a time, it wasn't money. The village
No.
operated in the sense of bartering and of just exchanging.
Mm.
I give you this bag of apples that I've grown on my farm, and you give me that bale of wool, and that's how the village operated before money became a currency. Um,
Yeah.
Two things really blew my mind there. The first thing was the Uber. I love that idea, and I'm going to have to pick your brains about that, maybe on a separate side chat after this, because that's the second time someone has told me about an Uber experience from their car, and I'm starting to think maybe it's a thing I need to explore. You know how sometimes the synchronicity of life is like that, things start to come your way and you go, hang on a minute, this is not a coincidence. This is something that I need to pay attention to. So anyway, I'm ranting and getting you got me really excited about that conversation, but I love the concept of putting yourself in a car and going picking up people and taking in the pulse of the village, the pulse of the people. Uh and what a beautiful environment to do that because you're going to get it raw, you're going to get it rich, and
Yeah.
you may stumble upon a few stories that maybe you don't want to hear, but you're also going to get some amazing stories. And what a fantastic initiative, Diego! I'm so excited to hear more about that.
It
Um,
took a while. Yeah.
but coming back to the village, I've got something for you. Um, if and I love the imagery of you and I in a stall. Like people are walking past and like they stop and they're like, so what are you characters on about? What are you jokers up to, So and then I just suddenly thought, well, what is the name of our stall? Like every stall's got a name, right? So I'm thinking, and I'm gonna put you on the spot here, like, what do you think of free range men?
That sounds good. You got already got a logo behind you, so I'm not.
Yeah, well, that's a side thing. That's my coaching business. But for this environment, I'm thinking of the village. I'm thinking of the stall, and I think we have to have a name. So I'm going to throw that one out there, and we can play around with that.
Yeah, free range man. Yeah, yeah. That's I I I like it. I like it on my listening. Free range man. I still in my listening. I still don't consider myself free range. Because free range for me is like a free range, and I feel that I'm still very very attached to things, and I'm working a lot on, but yeah, potentially free range.
maybe, maybe,
Or,
maybe that's the journey that we're both going on here, Diego, is that
or
we
the final destination.
are working towards a place to be a little more enlightened in terms of how do we navigate this mad world that we're living in, and as men, and I think the idea of free range men, again, it just came to me.
Yeah, I like it.
It came to me, and I wanted to throw it out there. And why not do it in this environment? And maybe our massive audience that we have out there can help us, help contribute a name.
No,
Uh,
I like it. I feel I'm connecting more to what you said, Lloyd, and I believe that free range is more about what we bring to the table. That could be anything,
yeah,
anything, and I believe that the more we have these conversations, the different topics will come up to the surface, and 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 some of them will be uncomfortable, and some of them will be places where we don't know we could go and see what happened with that. And obviously, in terms of men on manhood in general, yes, I'm interested like you in manhood in a way that I I always been a bit scared of manhood and men in general, and I didn't know, and I don't know exactly how to be a man or be a man in manhood. Um, and and I feel one of the things that I feel from inside is that I would like to understand more about that. So creating something for men or a space where men are we getting a little bit more free to share things.
yeah.
I might get to understand more about manhood as well. But it's not a sexist talk.
It's sexy.
Sexist.
And not sexy. Okay, well, we
No,
like
no, no, no. Sorry, Lloyd. This has to be edited. I said sexist.
how sexist. Okay, right.
Yeah, it's not that
All
for
right.
men only.
I'll
Um,
I'll let my editing team know. Um,
but it could be sexy as well. Like I
that's
don't know.
and that might be just a good opportunity to put this. If anything has to be structured from today, maybe it is a good opportunity to tell the audience, um, the space is obviously in the sense of free range. When I think of free range, I think of chickens running around in an open paddock being completely free. And I like what you said there because I think it's not about us potentially being free range because I think we're still on that journey. We're certainly not far from we're certainly far from enlightenment. But we are prepared to be vulnerable and prepared to be authentic with each other. And
Hmm.
that is my main prerequisite or my main, vision for this space is to be vulnerable and to be authentic so that we can set the tone and that whatever we share maybe can help invite other men to do that too. And to be more vulnerable with each other. And yeah, it probably doesn't sound very appealing to a lot of men out there because that's really not the MO, is it? It's beers and barbecues and babes and boobs and football, and that's all fine too, I can live in that space as well as anyone else. But these conversations I find really rich and really enriching in terms of, well, where are we going as men in the 21st century?
Yeah.
How can we come together as men and start having a different conversation, one that fills us up from the inside, and we can still have all that extra stuff. We can still enjoy all the things that us men like to do and like to talk about, but can we have a side conversation as well? And I'm so excited to have this opportunity with you, Diego, and to have this space. And I'm really um, really grateful that you've said yes, and that this is it. This is the first one. How cool!
Yeah, beautiful note. Yeah, thank you. And it was super nice. And yeah, let's keep doing it. And I have that. There's nothing more comfortable. I mean, I feel extremely, extremely comfortable talking to you, and I'm happy to share everything that I could actually think of, or anything that happens to me, with obviously the privacy of other people. But I mean, whatever I can share, and whatever I you want to share, just feel free, because um there's no there's no pretending, right?
No, I think yeah, we uh much in the free range kind of concept, it's organic, it's free flowing, there's not too much structure. I think as soon as we put a lot of structure, it becomes a bit more rigid, a bit more planned, and a little less authentic. So I would encourage us to continue in this vein, that we arrive at these sessions without too much of that, and just trusting in that process, that whatever needs to be said today will be said. And when I went to the beach this morning and found myself carved out that little pocket of time for me, um, just alone with nothing and just nature around me, and I did a quick little meditation, and I tried to just imagine that whatever happens in the session today, that it just comes out naturally, that it isn't forced or it isn't planned. And there were parts of me and parts of my mind going, well, maybe you talk about this, and maybe you need to have this topic and that topic. And well, where I am now, and looking and reflecting, Diego, I'd say I'm pretty happy with how the conversation's gone today. What do you think?
No, no, I'm always happy. I think it's beautiful. Yeah, I think that's what we've done, and embrace it. It's beautiful.
Fantastic.
And then I'm gonna share three more titles for these conversations that came up after the last paragraph that we said each other. And titles: pretend. Let's not pretend. We are not pretending, or male pretending. Male not pretending. Males not pretending, or men not pretending, something. That, I don't know. I just go on pretending,
Brilliant.
because yeah, it doesn't really matter. Then we will have a session on 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 branding.
I love it. Awesome. So
Cool, right?
let's catch up again in another couple of weeks.
Yeah,
I think yeah, we we can end this now,
yeah, beautiful.
and then we can catch
Thanks, man.
up after. Cheers.